The grant will see Malawians across 32 districts and municipal councils benefit from expanded public services, opportunities for local jobs, and improved service delivery and accountability. The project will scale up performance-based grants, PBG, and strengthen financial resource management and multi-level governance to improve public service delivery in Malawi. Firas Rad, World Bank Group Country Manager for Malawi, said the $80 million grant to the government of Malawi for the JESED 2.0 project will improve public service for citizens living across 28 districts and for municipal local authorities including Kasungu, Luchenza, Mangochi and Karonga. He further said the project will also institutionalize performance-based approaches within government systems, strengthen health, education, water and infrastructure services for communities across Malawi, and generate local employment through expanded capital investment in districts. Rad said JESED 2.0 is a testament to what is possible when government, citizens and development partners commit to systemic reform and hold each other accountable for results, adding that in just 6 years, Malawi's local authorities have improved their performance. According to the World Bank, JESED 2.0 means more children learning in better classrooms, more families receiving health care, and more families with access to clean water. The statement further says with this new investment, the gains of JESED 1 will further be taken to every corner of Malawi, while also creating jobs for contractors, builders and professionals in every district. JESED 2.0 will be implemented by the National Local Government Finance Committee in close collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Decentralization. Temba Male, MPC News, Blantyre.
Government says over 200 fuel trucks are in transit to address the fuel situation that has affected most parts of the economy in the past few days. Minister of Energy and Mining, Jean Matanga, disclosed this during a press briefing in Blantyre. Chisomo Break reports.
Matanga, who was joined by the Minister of Information, Shadrack Namalomba, and officials from Mera and Nokima, acknowledged that this week's fuel situation has been exacerbated by insufficient forex. She therefore noted that the government has secured forex for procurement of enough volumes of fuel. According to the minister, over 200 trucks in transit and a lot more loading in Tanzania and Mozambique ports. The fuel situation will normalize by next week.
I must say that we are now improving. I know the past 7 days or so, the country has been subjected to these fuel stockouts. But there are a number of issues that has contributed to that. But what I can just say in summary is that the major hit was on forex for us to purchase the fuels. So I'm happy to report that we have since managed to secure the forex for us to be able to pay for the fuels. And from last Wednesday, we started pushing in. Trucks have been coming. And from last Wednesday, we were looking at about 243 trucks that have been loading in our ports, in the ports in Tanzania and Mozambique. And some are already in the country and others are in transit. And we keep on loading. And I'm sure come next week, Monday, Tuesday, we should see a very big difference to the supply of fuel in the country.
Apart from fuel becoming a sought-after commodity, Malawians are also enduring persistent load sheddings that have affected key sectors of the national economy. On this, the energy minister said the load sheddings are largely caused by aging infrastructure and a lack of maintenance by the past administration. Additionally, the minister said that the government is considering on transporting fuel by rail as part of efforts to improve supply in the country. She further said that the government is engaging other SADC countries such as Zambia and Zimbabwe for fuel supply through pipelines to strengthen delivery and efficiency.
At the same time, we do also have issues to do with theft of our ESCOM property, ESCOM equipment, line machinery and all that. And that is also affecting us, and it's affecting the work of ESCOM big time. As a result, instead of concentrating on new works, they're going back to do the fixing. There's also the issue of sabotage. We do have a number of staff within ESCOM that are not doing their work properly. They decide to sleep on their job. Probably when they're asked to go and fix some faults, they're taking time, a day or two. All they want is just for the customers to go and beg them, give them something for them to go and give attention to the faults. So this is what is happening at the moment. And of course, all this is also boiling down to the fact that we do not produce enough for our consumption. We should not generate enough power for our generation. So as a result, any slight disturbance in the system, it affects the whole country. So as a government, what are we doing to address this? Firstly, we're making sure that we give attention to upscaling our generation capacity from the current 550 megawatt to at least doubling that by 2030. So what we are doing is to make sure that we invite other players to come in to invest in renewable energies. These are to do with solars and whatnot. So that is happening. At the same time, we are also interconnecting with neighboring countries.
Minister of Information Shadrack Namalomba urged Malawians to trust the DPP-led government that it is resolving all the challenges facing the country. He emphasized that this is not a time for politicking, but for prioritizing the welfare of people. Namalomba further disclosed that moving forward, government will be holding monthly media engagements to keep the nation well informed through press briefings. Chisomo Break, NBC News, Blantyre.
Leader for People's Development Party, PDP, Kondwani Nkhani, has held government for informing Malawians the truth about the state of the country's affairs, noting that the development signals a departure from denial towards a more honest national conversation. Nkhani disclosed this in a statement issued to MBC as part of his party's stand on matters of national interest. We have a report.
Nkhani's statement comes just after hours. The Minister of Energy and Mining, Jean Matanga, alongside the Information Minister Shadrack Namalomba, addressed a press briefing in Blantyre on factors disrupting steady fuel supply and intermittent load shedding. Nkhani noted that by coming out clearly on the situation, the DPP-led administration under the leadership of President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika has demonstrated that it is actively seeking solutions to steer Malawi out of the current situation and offers a sense of direction. The PDP leader further urged political parties in the country not to seek political gain from the situation, highlighting that the challenges facing the country are national in character. He further admitted that the challenges confronting the country are complex and multifaceted, arising from global pressures, saying honest assessment must acknowledge this reality. According to Nkhani, at this moment, Malawians must foster a shared national approach grounded in collective wisdom, practical solutions, and a sincere commitment to alleviating the sufferings of the people. He noted that only through unity of purpose and disciplined leadership that President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika continues to demonstrate, the country will navigate through the difficult terrain. Chisomo Break, NBC News, Blantyre.
The Malawi Enterprise Development Fund, MEDF, has announced the resumption of disbursement of loans by the organization next month. Board chairperson for MEDF, James Napambo, made the announcement at a press briefing in Lilongwe. He said the board has put in place firm and strict measures to govern the loans management. Main Tumodze with the report.
In September last year, government directed MEDF to suspend loan disbursements to allow for a comprehensive institutional review. This was necessitated by the need to confront and address governance, operation and credit management weaknesses that had undermined the effectiveness and sustainability of the fund. MEDF board chairperson James Napambo said during the suspension period, the organization intensified loan recovery efforts and embarked on corrective interventions aimed at resolving long-standing legacy challenges. Napambo said in order to promote responsible borrowing, the loans would be strictly group-based. For business loans, MEDF will adopt a prudent and targeted lending approach, focusing on enterprises that demonstrate clear potential for growth, scalability, and meaningful economic impact.
The suspension allowed MEDF to review its operations and to put together structures and procedures for ensuring that the loans, when they are applied for, they are properly appraised, and when they are appraised, the people borrowing the money are eligible for borrowing, and two, they have got the capacity and capability to repay the loan. We've done that, and that's why today we are resuming the lending process in MEDF. We are confident that with the procedures we have put in place and the measures we have put in place, going forward, the lending will be done using sound lending principles. And consequently, the loans borrowed will be repaid by the borrowers.
So far, the MEDF has collected 8 billion kwacha and is in the process of recovering 107 billion kwacha from individuals and groups. Mwaim Tumodzi, MBC News, Lilongwe.
The Blantyre Water Board has expressed optimism that there will be improved water supply once the rehabilitation works are completed at its main water pumping station, Walker's Ferry, in Mwanza. Speaking in an interview with MBC during the inspection, Board Chairperson for Blantyre Water Board, Stanley Chira, said he is satisfied with the progress of the works. Details in this report.
Earlier this week, Blantyre Water Board started carrying out its maintenance works on its main pumping station, the Walker's Ferry, here in Kula. The move is aimed at improving water supply in Blantyre. And behind me is one of the pumps that Blantyre Water Board is replacing here at Walker's Ferry. Board Chairperson for Blantyre Water Board, Stanley Chira, says he is impressed with the work so far and they have not encountered any challenges.
Aside from this project, the World Bank also is assisting us in improving the water supply. And we are very soon going to undertake the distribution network, the upgrade of the distribution network, whereby we are basically changing pipes for the entire of Blantyre city to improve supply. So we expect that within the next few months, as the work starts, we're going to, people of Blantyre will notice the change on that, and we're expecting better supply. At times whereby we've had challenges with some manufacturers and suppliers in terms of timely delivery of materials, but that with support from the relevant officers, mainly the Ministry of Finance and the Treasury, they've been able to assist us timely on that, and then we have been able to work on the shortfalls and the challenges that we have.
The equipment, courtesy of the World Bank, valued at $4 million, is expected to improve water supply in Blantyre and enhance sanitation. Eveles Chingambe, MBC, Walker's Ferry.
This is MBC News with me, Opile Kaisa. A reminder of our top stories. The World Bank approves a grant worth $80 million to the Malawi government aimed at boosting governance and service delivery. Over 200 fuel trucks en route into the country as government strives to address fuel shortage. And in sports, Masters Football Club launched with officials targeting the team's survival in the inaugural 2026-2027 FDH Premiership. Welcome back. The Ministry of Energy and Mining says government is banking on the Rutile Graphite mining project to help spur the country's economic development. A mining surveyor in the ministry, Hilary Bandawe, said this when Sovereign Metals presented its findings on the definitive feasibility study for the Kasia project. Austin Fokula reports.
Bandawe says it is pleasing to note that the definitive feasibility study has shown that rutile deposits at Kasia are at over 20 million tons, more than the initial projection of 17 million tons, while graphite is projected at over 24 million tons.
It's notable to observe that the project is going to is going to include a mining component as well as a processing component, where a processing plant will be set up to produce a high value graphite as well as rutile product.
In a reaction to the development, a well-known mining expert, Gren Malunga, adds that the Kasia rutile and graphite mining is a game changer for Malawi, as it will be the largest mining venture Malawi has ever had. Malunga encourages Malawians to support the project as it will enhance socio-economic activities in the country. Chief Executive Officer for Sovereign Metals, Frankie Iga, points out that the feasibility study has also indicated that revenue for the 25 years of implementation is projected at 28 trillion kwacha from the initial amount of 18 trillion kwacha. Iga says after successfully completing the study, it will start application for a larger scale mining license and also submit the environmental and social impact assessment report to government.
I hope that we can have all these approvals done by the end of the year. So anything faster than that will be a big bonus, but I know it will take time. And we are, we prepared, and we understand the difficulties of getting through these type of applications.
According to Sovereign Metals, the Kasia rutile graphite mining project is expected to employ over 10,000 direct and indirect workers once production kicks off in the next 3 years. Austin Fugula, MPC News, Lilongwe.
Minister of Natural Resources and Climate Change, Patricia Whiskers, said there is need to conduct an audit review of performance agreement between government and the concessionaries operating in Vipya plantations. The minister made the remarks after noting that over 80% of the concessionaries operating in the plantations have not replanted and have left most of their areas without trees. Hassan P. reports.
This is one of the concession areas that was given out to the people of Malawi to be managing this part of Vipya plantations. But what is happening is that most of the areas that were given out to the people, there is nothing much happening. We are talking of replanting of trees as well as the actual production of timber. This has prompted the minister to engage the concessionaires to find out the main causes of their inactivity on their concession areas. The minister has indicated that government will conduct an audit review to determine the way forward on the matter.
In the meantime, we will be conducting a review of the concessions to assess which ones are performing better and which ones are not performing. At the end of the day, what we'll do is to sit down with the non-performing concessions to see how best they can improve and how they can learn the best practices from the concessions that are actually performing well. We suspect that some concessions or some concessionaires do not have the capacity to continue with the business, and should that be the event, we will again go on a round table to discuss with them in terms of their business plan and their payment plan, and to assess and learn from them as to whether they are still willing to continue holding these concessions or not. Where there is no capacity, our preference as government is to suspend those concessions and reallocate them to investors that have the capacity to develop their concessions.
Representative of the concessionaires, Paulo Simwale, acknowledges that operators have not really done enough as per their agreement. He, however, stated that forest management requires more time and investment before harvesting.
I've raised quite a number of issues amongst the issue of financing and the fees. Financing, as we indicated there is no financial institution which is willing to give us money, because this is a long-term investment, in the sense that it takes about 15 to 20 years to mature, to start harvesting.
Earlier in the day, the minister visited the 15,000-hectare Kaningina Forest Reserve, where she noted the rampant deforestation currently taking place in the forest. She led the crew to dismantle the charcoal kiln, which was constructed in the forest for charcoal production. The minister is in the northern region for official duties, where she is engaged in activities aimed at restoring the environment in Malawi. Hassan Piri, MBC News, Nzimba.
The High Court, sitting as a constitutional court in Blantyre, has rejected an application by 13 persons with disabilities who sought a review of laws criminalizing begging in cities. The ruling means that begging remains illegal under the law. Ruth Chinangwa reports.
Through their lawyers, the applicants argued that Section 180B of the law is unconstitutional because it criminalizes begging in Malawi. The lawyers said the provision is discriminatory and violates fundamental rights, including right to engage in economic activity.
Remember, the High Court is not the final court. When a constitutional court is constituted, it still sits as the High Court. So the final arbiter still remains the Supreme Court. So if after looking at the full judgment and we feel, or our clients do feel that there are issues that they should raise before the Supreme Court, and we get those instructions, we will proceed to approach the Supreme Court.
Meanwhile, one of the state lawyers in the case, Ndoli Yume, said they are pleased with the ruling.
The law says that you cannot be begging in public as an economical activity. So it's illegal for you to be begging in public. If you read the law, it's clear. It deals with all persons within the Republic of Malawi. So it does not only deal with people with disability or such, but it deals with every single individual within Malawi.
3 High Court judges, namely John Mashikizo Chirwa, Aneline Kantambi, and Shimwemwe Gamoa, delivered the ruling on Friday. Ruth Chinangwa, MBC News, Blantyre.
And in sports, Masters Club Foundation has been launched with officials targeting the team's survival in the inaugural 2026-2027 FDH Bank Premiership. Launching the team, club president Alfred Gangata said the team aims at promoting youthful talents that could present Malawi at any given stage. Pomlo Oka has the details.
Gangata notes that the coming back of Masters FC in the league will increase competition, which he believes will positively affect the football landscape in the country. Citing the Kazbek Championship, which the team won in 2018 before its disappearance, Gangata warns that his team will not be a walkover for other teams, but a force to reckon with in the league. Kelvin Moyo is the Chief Executive Officer for Masters FC and says no unrealistic goals have been set for the technical panel, but survival in the light league is a must.
First and foremost, we are very happy that we've launched as a football club. Going forward, we've got only 2 aims. Those are our bigger aims. Number 1 is to bring competitiveness in the league. Will be a hard nut to crack, that we promise. Secondly, is about sustainability, financial. We want to be financially sustainable. We don't want to be relying on the pocket of the owner alone, but we want to be one of the best commercialized teams in the country. So those are our main aims, and going forward, I think we will achieve them.
For his part, Football Association of Malawi President Fleetwood Haya applauded Masters FC for a bold move into the football arena. He has since expressed optimism that with serious investments like what Masters have put in the game, the country's national team will likely yield best possible results.
This is very extraordinary, considering the fact that they are new, but yet they have already made sure that they comply to our club licensing requirements. You know, we do encourage these clubs to make sure that they run as a business. This is the direction that we have been talking about if we are to transform our football in Malawi. So, as Football Association of Malawi, we commend what Masters have done so far.
Masters FC previously operated under the name Masters Security Football Club before they got relegated from the 10M Super League in 2019 before it was disbanded. The club has returned into the Elite League after owner Alfred Gangata acquired Baka City, who had earned promotion after finishing third in the inaugural National Division League, which was renamed Masters FC.
We are back with the back.
Paul Mlowoka, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Well, that item also concludes this edition of MBC News. A reminder of our top stories before we leave. The World Bank approves a grant worth $80 million to the Malawi government aimed at boosting governance and service delivery. Over 200 fuel trucks en route into the country as government strives to address fuel shortage. And in sports, Masters Football Club launched with officials targeting the team's survival in the inaugural 2026-2027 FDH Premiership. Keep up to date with our news coverage on our digital platforms by scanning the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen. You are with me, Ubile Kaisa. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely morning.
Modern ambition pace. There is no margin for error. So much here.